Hornets, Aliah here with the latest buzz on summer reading books. Summer is well underway, and if you're ready to spice up your life with some awesome adventures and stories, then watch the Buzz About Books right now for the inside scoop on 3 new books, and check back every week to see what's new with your local library. School will be coming faster than you know, but luckily we're still at the part of the summer where we have enough time to mentally prepare. Get ahead of your teachers by reading a book from a reading list of the most popular books read in high school. The following books are the top 5 most popular. First, we have To Kill a Mockingbird, Their Eyes Were Watching God, 1984, Brave New World, and The Great Gatsby. If you've already read these books, leave your own review on our Facebook page at facebook.com/buzzybooks to help out your fellow classmates. Another place to find awesome book reviews for almost any book is goodreads.com. Make the most of your summer by getting ahead on the school year reading since you have all this extra relaxation time. This week, I thought I would focus on more thought-provoking books that deal with overcoming adversity. I'll be highlighting one book that I know is on the reading list for a good majority of Herndon High School students, and 2 other books that are very similar. If you are interested in daring, inspiring books, Book Thief is a popular summer reading, school-required novel. Because of its size, it may seem like a pretty daunting read, but the author, Markus Zusak, writes in a way that is entrancing and hard to stop reading. His main character is Liesel Meiminger, who becomes a foster child in 1939 Nazi Germany. The book is mostly narrated by death, which gives it a perspective that you may have not experienced before. Liesel becomes obsessed with stealing books from wherever she can find them, and although she cannot read them at first, her foster father begins to teach her. Suddenly, she realizes just how important reading, books, and words are. After her foster family takes in a young Jew to hide in their home, Liesel makes a dear friend and finds a cause to fight for, although she is warned by those she loves to not speak out against Hitler. Death finds himself fascinated by Liesel, whom he refers to as the book thief throughout the entire book, and he struggles to understand humans as much as we humans do ourselves. First up is Something White, of the blinding kind. Some of you are most likely thinking that white is not really a color and all of that tired sort of nonsense. Well, I'm here to tell you that it is. White is without question a color, and personally, I don't think you want to argue with me. A reassuring announcement. Please be calm despite that previous threat. I am all bluster, I am not violent, I am not malicious. I am a result. It felt as though the whole globe was dressed in snow, like it had pulled it on, the way you pull on a sweater. Next to the train line, footprints were sunken to their shins. Trees wore blankets of ice. As you might expect, someone had died. They couldn't just leave him on the ground. For now, it wasn't such a problem, but very soon the track ahead would be cleared and the train would need to move on. There were 2 guards. There was one mother and her daughter, one corpse. The mother, the girl, and the corpse remained stubborn and silent. What else do you want me to do? The guards were tall and short. The tall one always spoke first, though he was not in charge. He looked at the smaller, rounder one, the one with the juicy red face. Well, we can't just leave them like this, can we? Well, why not? The smaller one near exploded. He looked up at the tall one's chin and cried, "Are you stupid? Come on, we'll carry all 3 of them back on if we have to. We'll notify the next stop." As for me, I had already made the most elementary of mistakes. I can't explain to you the severity of my self-disappointment. Originally, I'd done everything right. I studied the blinding white snow sky who stood at the window of the moving train. I practically inhaled it, but still I wavered. I became interested in the girl. Curiosity got the better of me, and I resigned myself to stay as long as my schedule allowed, and I watched. 23 minutes later, when the train was stopped, I climbed out with them, a small soul in my arms. I stood a little to the right. The dynamic train guard duo made their way back to the mother, the girl, and the small male corpse. I clearly remember that my breath was loud that day. I'm surprised the guards didn't notice me as they walked by. Perhaps 10 meters to my left, the pale, empty-stomached girl was standing, frost-stricken. Her mouth jittered. Her cold arms were folded. Tears were frozen to the book thief's face. Written eloquently and quite differently from other books, The Book Thief will be a novel that you remember reading for years to come. The book is not short. It is not always happy and jolly, and it will make many readers emotional. However, I think it is a very important piece of modern literature that will expand your mind and your reading horizons. Whether reading for school or pleasure, you should begin reading this book with an open mind to avoid boredom, confusion, or disappointment. This book is recommended for those in high school and college, not recommended for younger audiences. Dragon's Gate by Laurence is a little-told story of the struggles of Chinese immigrants to America in the 1800s. It is the story of young Otter from China who has a dream that transforms into a nightmare. After he is forced to flee his home in China, he is excited to join his father and uncle in California, where he will be helping to build the Great Transcontinental Railroad. But the reality is that America is not as fair and free as many profess for immigrants. The Chinese workers are little more than slaves who are forced to chisel a path for the new railroad through the Sierra Nevada mountains. Otter must fight bitter cold, starvation, and the realization that his legendary uncle is not the person that Otter once thought he was. As I stepped into the narrow lane with the shoes, some of my classmates fell in step beside me. "Is your father going to just stay a while, or is he finally going to retire?" Stumpy asked. In the lane, some smaller children were playing a game of Hunt the Stranger and were arguing about who was going to be the dirty, stinking, greedy stranger whom the others would hunt. "I don't know," I said. "His letter didn't say." "If he's going back, then maybe I could go with him," Stumpy suggested. I stared at him in surprise. "You're only 16. "Your uncle wasn't much older when he first went overseas," Stumpy grunted. "The agent says he'll give me passage if I promise to work 5 years over there." "Or 10 or 15, Braid said. As had so many other rebels, Braid's father, Spider, had left for the Golden Mountain to save his neck. Like Mother and so many others of the clan, Braid's father was involved in the work of driving the Manchus out. Recently, the British barbarians had invaded the Middle Kingdom a second time to force us to let them sell their drugs, their opium, here. As we had during the First Opium War, we had cooperated with the Manchus against a common foe. But when the war had ended in disaster, rebellions had sprung up here and in other parts of the country. "My father wants me to join him," Braid added. Sometimes it seemed as if all my classmates were talking about crossing the ocean. Pretty soon this village will be nothing but women, children, and the old folks. At times like this, I yearned to go someplace where it wouldn't matter what my birth parents had been. Someplace like the Golden Mountain. I began to grow excited. If Braid could do it, why not me? The more I thought about the notion, the more excited I became. Why should I be the only boy who had to stay home? It would be heaven to be with my father and near my uncle, the living legend. Maybe a little of his glory would settle on me as well. At that moment, a haggard woman stumbled into the lane. Her hair was a tangled bush and her clothes were dirty. "There you are," she said to Stumpy. "Go home, Mother," he said. She shuffled toward us. "Did you ask him?" "I haven't had a chance yet." Embarrassed, Stumpy grabbed her shoulders and tried to turn her around so she could head back out of the lane. However, his mother wrenched free. "How dare you handle your mother this way?" She extended a claw toward me. "You're a nice boy. Your father sits on a mountain all of gold, so you won't begrudge us a bowl of rice?" Behind her, Stumpy shook his head at me, but I already knew that she would take any cash and buy opium. "I'm sorry," I apologized. "I don't have any money on me." "You're nothing but another one of those mean, spiteful strangers. Real kin would help a clan member." "That's enough, Mother." Stumpy got her in a bear hug. They were about the same height, and she had starved her body so much in her addiction that she weighed hardly anything. "Ingrate, traitor!" Twisting her head, she spat at me. "Let's go home, Mother." Still carrying her, Stumpy stumped out of the lane. I knew something had to be done very soon for our poor country, and I wanted to be one of those who helped. Read Dragon's Gate to find out if Otter survives in America, the land of the Golden Mountain. This book can be read by those in middle and high school. While it details struggles and harsh conditions, there's no vulgarity or harsh images for younger audiences. Chains is an engrossing and heart-racing story of the young slave Isabel. Isabel and her sister Ruth have been promised freedom by a loving master after losing both of their parents. However, when that master dies, her greedy nephew does not deliver on the promise, since all he cares about is money and not a bit about the slaves. While the Revolutionary War is just beginning, Isabel realizes that if a whole country can fight for their freedom, so can she. After meeting a slave who spies for the Patriots, Isabel begins to do the same, reluctantly at first, until she realizes that her freedom and the safety of her sister comes before all else. The best time to talk to ghosts is just before the sun comes up. That's when they can hear us true, Mama said. That's when ghosts can answer us. The eastern sky was peach-colored, but a handful of lazy stars still blinked in the west. It was almost time. May I run ahead, sir? I asked. Pastor Weeks sat at the front of his squeaky wagon with old Ben next to him. He turned to talk to Mr. Robert Finch, who rode his horse a few lengths behind the wagon. The child wants to run ahead, Pastor explained to him. She has Ken buried there. Do you give leave for a quick visit? Please, sir, I said. Go then, he said, but don't tarry. I've much business today. He had shown up a few weeks earlier to visit Miss Mary Finch, his aunt and only living relation. He looked around her tidy farm, listened to her ragged wet cough, and moved in. Miss Mary wasn't even cold on her deathbed when he helped himself to the coins in her strong box. I ran as fast as I could. I hurried past the stone fence that surrounded the white graveyard to the split rail fence that marked our ground. The morning mist twisted and hung low over the field. No ghosts yet, just ash trees and maples. I entered. Mama was buried in the back, her feet to the east, her head to the west. Someday I would pay the stone carver for a proper marking with her name on it. Dinah, wife of Cuff, mother of Isabel and Ruth. For now, there was a wooden cross and a gray rock the size of a dinner plate lying flat on the ground in front of it. Smallpox is tricky, Miss Mary Finch had said to me when Mama died. There's no telling who it will take. The pox had left Ruth and me with scars like tiny stars scattered on our skin. It took Mama home to our Maker. It's here, Mama, I whispered, the day you promised. But I need your help. Can you please cross back over for just a bit? Please, Mama, I whispered urgently. I need your help. I squinted into the ash grove where the mist was heaviest. No ghosts. Nothing. I reached in the pocket under my apron and took out the oat cake. It was in 2 pieces with honey smeared between them. The smell made my stomach rumble, but I didn't dare nibble. I picked up the flat rock in front of the cross and set the offering in the hollow under it. Then I put the rock back and sat still, my eyes closed tight to keep the tears inside my head where they belong. If she would just say my name, just once. Girl, Mr. Roberts shouted. You there, girl. I sniffed, opened my eyes, and wiped my face on my sleeve. The sun had popped up in the east like a cork and was burning through the morning mist. The ghosts had all gone to ground. I wouldn't see her today either. Vivid detail, beautiful imagery, and wonderful dialogue is found in this novel. This book is recommended for those in high school. The book almost doesn't seem like a historical fiction novel, and the reader will be caught up in the plight and bravery of Isabel. Now in your local library news, if you have time to spare and need those all-important community service hours, your local library needs you to volunteer. By volunteering, you can acquire new skills and gain recognized work experience, expand your social horizons, keep up with the latest books, and also brag that you volunteer for the largest, busiest public library system in Virginia. Get more information and watch the orientation video at fairfaxcounty.gov/library/volunteer. If you're close to the Sherwood Regional Public Library, a teen scavenger hunt is ongoing until August 30th. The scavenger hunt can be done at your own pace and will test your library knowledge. Interested in starting your own library scavenger hunt? Contact your local library at fairfaxcounty.gov/library. Thanks for joining me for this week's episode of The Buzz About Books. I hope you enjoy these books, and if you have any books you would like reviewed, don't forget to head over to Facebook, leave a comment, and watch back next week. Stay cool and stay smart, Hornets.